At some time or another, nearly everyone has wanted to drive an engine. A real steam express of the sort that's almost entirely disappeared. They made a majestic, primitive sight as they belched the smoke and steam of power, bringing out the schoolboy in grown men. The real thing and the model. If we can't drive trains ourselves, we can run a railway network in miniature. Millions ran toy trains as toddlers. Thousands today belong to Britain's model railway clubs, like the elaborate one at Gainsborough. But the steam locos that aroused so much emotion now belong almost entirely to the past, and unprofitable branch lines have been steadily closed down. And as steam has given way to diesel, so a new hobby has grown up, not just in Britain, but on the continent and in America. The Railway Preservation Societies. People like the members of the Keighley and North Valley Railway in the heart of the Bronte country buy up and preserve the old lines. Full-sized playing with trains, you might call it, and a first-class hobby it is. Weekends cleaning and repairing engines that have been taken out of service and sold by British Railways. Maintaining 5 miles of track and taking the trains for a run, usually on Sundays. One day they hope to be allowed to take fare-paying passengers. No wonder this club alone has 1,000 members. Not far away, also in Yorkshire, is the Middleton Railway Trust, which runs its own freight engines, maintained and staffed by enthusiastic amateurs. It carries 12,000 tons of goods a year. The Society's secretary, Mrs. Ewell, is the wife of a university lecturer. There are now about 50 of these preservation societies, large and small, in Britain. The societies often dedicate themselves to some particular railway. The Great Western has a club of ardent enthusiasts. They buy everything they can afford when it becomes surplus, from station nameplates to engines. For their open day at Taplow, they borrow locos such as Pendennis Castle, once a world-famous flyer and now privately owned. Several thousands will often turn out to admire the old champions. The Transport Museum at Clapham in South London attracts more and more visitors. When it has a special Sunday opening, long queues line up for the privilege of clambering around the footplate of the Mallard, while one of its old drivers explains the controls. The Mallard once did 126 miles an hour. But to the real railway lover, the star of stars is probably the Flying Scotsman, which apart from its early predecessor, the Rocket, is almost certainly the most famous engine in the history of British steam trains. It was bought for £3,000 by an ex-railway executive, Alan Pegler, who has a long agreement with the British Railways Board to run it over the main lines on special trips for enthusiasts. Running it is quite a job. The engine is kept in the sheds at Doncaster, the last steam loco of a bygone era, a giant in an engine yard now given over to diesels. It takes 8 hours to get steam up, starting from a box of matches. Coaling up has to be done from a lorry, for nowadays there are scarcely any coal bunkers and practically no water left on the railway network. This means that long before the run, coaling and watering points have to be arranged along the route. Then 4472 is off on another run, packed with 500 enthusiasts who've paid up to £5 for the day's round trip. The Ely Curve is a piece of railway history to be admired and studied as the express goes slowly round it. The great engines of the past have a personality of their own. Wherever the Flying Scotsman stops during a run across seemingly empty fen country, crowds appear in no time. Filling its tanks with their full quota of 11,000 gallons of water is almost a ceremony. Then comes the main run, out of the fens and up to York. This is the time when the real enthusiast is really busy. The day is young and there's a lot to do. Railway fans don't only buy records and tapes of their favourite sounds, they take recordings and timings themselves and build up their own record books.
We're having a wonderful time today because we're being pulled by the Flying Scotsman. It's certainly a great day for us because I've never been behind a steam engine before.
Well, I suppose I've always been interested in railways, right from when I was a little girl.
I haven't been over this line for some years, so I get a bit lost now.
Yes, I've been interested in these trips for about 5 years and have been coming along on them.
The driver's cabin is certainly swinging at just under 80. The Scotsman used to do a ton and could still do it if it had to. George Harland, who's in charge, is now a chief inspector on Eastern Region. Driver Billy Parfitt worked his way up to expresses in the old days of steam. There aren't many of his sort left on the line nowadays. And Jack Nelson, taking turns to fire the engine, now drive diesels. But they used to be firemen on the steam locos. Firing's a back-aching job. When she's at speed, she eats up nearly half a hundredweight of coal a mile, which means non-stop shoveling. Every mile, she uses 45 gallons of water. In the old days, on the fast runs, the steam locos used to scoop it up from a trough between the rails as they roared along. But nobody needs to give a diesel a drink. Despite its dirt and grime, the age of steam still looks romantic, even to some railwaymen. After his stint up forward, Bill Parfitt will come back through the corridor tender, have a meal, and talk to the fans. Today, there's hardly even a steam shunting engine left in service. British Rail want the diesel image. They seem to think the flying specials are more a nuisance than they're worth, and they've said there'll be no more private excursions after present commitments have been met. When the last contract is up, that'll be the end of the line for the Flying Scotsman. 4472 will steam off for the last time into the history books.